In this video, I am ranking every language learning method from best to worst because every single method promises to make you fluent, but after decades of learning and teaching languages and trying just about every language learning method that there is, I've got a pretty good idea of what actually works and what is a complete waste of time. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly where the method that you are already using lands on my scale and which one is going to maximize your limited study time and which single method deserves the top tier. So before we start, you need to know what these rankings actually are. S tier is what I would build my whole language learning routine around. This is the gold standard. A is excellent, but not quite enough on its own. B is useful, but only as a supporting method. C, this is where methods start to annoy people. Overrated, feels like you're making a lot of progress until you realize you're not. And then F, well, that's the stop wasting your time right now tier. And so first in our list, the world's most popular language learning method. It's almost certainly sitting on your phone right now, and I bet you try real hard to use it every single day, probably in the bathroom. These are gamified language apps, Duolingo and all the rest. Now, as everyone knows, these apps are packed with phrases that you will definitely, probably, maybe need one day.
Αλλά ξέρεις πού είναι ο πορτοκαλί ελέφαντας? Είναι ροζ. Ο ελέφαντας είναι ροζ.
Brilliant, I will remember that the next time I'm searching for an elephant. Funny thing is, nearly everyone assumes that because an app is the most popular, it must be the best. Hundreds of millions of people can't be wrong, can they? Well, hold that thought, because here's the interesting thing. Most language apps start with the question, how do we fit language learning into an app? Because we want to make an app. I think a much better question is to ask, how do I create an app that actually supports proper learning so that people learn and they actually improve their languages? Those are not the same questions. No wonder people like James here still can't speak French after 4.5 years. And this is why I just generally don't touch gamified apps ever. The gamification is just not the point. I am a fan of apps that promote long-form listening or reading. I use a news app for my Japanese, for example, which is quite helpful. That's one of the reasons I just built my own story learning app, because it just so happens to be an app format, but the whole purpose of that is to get you reading as much as possible, which we do through personalized stories that adapt to your reading level as you go. Again, it just so happens to be an app, but the main purpose of that is the reading. There's a link in the description if you'd like to find out more about that. But look, gamified apps are brilliant at one job, which is getting you to show up. But here is where the wheels come off. Remember James's streak? Yeah, that guy couldn't even order lunch in French because tapping the right box is nothing like dragging a sentence out of your head in a real life conversation while another person is standing there waiting for you to speak. It's just a different thing, which is a shame because apps can be brilliant. The app is not the important bit, it's the method. So lovely little way in to start messing around with the language, absolutely. The thing that will actually get you anywhere, no, not a chance. So my verdict is fun habit, badly overrated way to learn. It gets a C.
Hunden min spiser leksene mine.
Most language learners don't have clarity. They learn some phrases, they study when they can, but towards what exactly? If you can't answer that, you've got no way of knowing whether any of it's really working. And honestly, this kind of uncertainty really kills progress and motivation. So I made something to fix this. It's called the Language Goal Planner. It's 2 pages, you can print it out, it takes a few minutes to set up, and it gets 3 things straight. Where are you right now in your language learning? Where do you want to be in 90 days? And what are you actually going to do each day to get there? Because when your goals are clear, that's when you get fluent. This planner is completely free. You can scan the QR code on the screen or grab the link below. Continuing with number 2. Now the next one is the dream of every busy person. It promises to teach you a language while you do absolutely nothing.
I'd like 10 of these.
Quiero 10 de estos. Quiero 10 de estos.
Now I'm not joking, people actually do this. It's called passive background listening. You play Spanish through your headphones while you sleep. 8 hours of audio, a comfy pillow, and when you wake up the next morning, Spanish has magically sunk in. Oh, wouldn't that be nice? I would love for my brain to learn Turkish while I'm literally unconscious. But here is the very annoying catch. Your brain only holds on to what you pay attention to, and background noise is the stuff that you're just tuning out. That's just basic science. No attention, no memory, no learning. So 8 hours of Spanish or Turkish past your sleeping head does about as much as a fridge humming in the kitchen. Now, is background listening ever worth doing? Sure, tuning your ear to the rhythm of a language while you are awake is a lovely little bonus. But as a method all on its own, it teaches you almost exactly what you'd expect from sleeping. Verdict, nice in theory, looks good on an ad, but utterly useless. That is an F. Now, number 3, what about one-to-one lessons with a tutor? The oldest method known to humankind. An actual person listening to you, fixing your mistakes the instant you make them. This has to be top tier, right? Well, this student-teacher relationship that has been in existence since the beginning of time obviously has a lot going for it. In many of my languages, French, Spanish, and Japanese come to mind. I actually would have really benefited from having a bit of like direct tuition. I was a bit too stubborn in the whole self-study thing, so a bit of tuition would have been very helpful. If I had to go back and start over, the one thing I'd probably do sooner is to get a tutor to fix my pronunciation right at the beginning, because the tutor does the one thing that no one else actually can. They can actually hear you. A textbook can't do that. An app will do a reasonable job, but it misses too much nuance. A good teacher catches the wrong vowel sound, the dropped ending, the intonation that's just not quite right, and can fix it for you at the beginning, so it avoids you getting into bad pronunciation habits from the beginning. That's one of the best uses for teachers, I think, right at the beginning. So the strengths of having access to a real teacher are hard to beat. Accountability, confidence, someone in your corner who notices what you keep getting wrong. You get guidance for how to improve. At Story Learning, for example, we have 10-week intensive VIP coaching programs for different languages, and this tuition with a coach is the foundation of the entire program. It's great. So what's the downside? Well, the main issue with tutoring is, first of all, the cost, and secondly, that it happens at a certain place, in a certain time, on a certain day. And so by definition, you cannot be doing it most of the time. And so while it's great to get you feedback, it can't practically be the engine of your own learning. Lessons are great for refining what you already know, but they're not where you actually build the skill. And for that, you need 2 things. You need masses of language going in and situations with real stakes where it genuinely matters whether you understand what's being said or not. You've got to grapple with the real thing, and a lesson just tends to be too safe, too familiar, too comfortable. 1 cozy hour a week just cannot recreate that. It's not enough. But if you pair it with number 12 in this list, then you've really got something. So verdict, well, it's one of the best things you can do, and if you can afford to keep it up, you'll be in business. This is A tier. Now here's one that gets more stick than it deserves, but just a little bit. This is number 4, the humble textbook. I know the textbook well. I once tried to learn Japanese almost entirely from a textbook, 2 years, night after night, doing it properly, and at the end, I could fill a page beautifully, but couldn't say a word to a real human without my brain panicking. And this is the problem in a nutshell. Textbooks give you a solid framework. It's a great learning pathway, but they can be a real drag because you have to stay incredibly disciplined and focused on your own. Potentially better for some people than one-to-one lessons because you can do as much as you want in your own time, but it can't give you realistic living language or feedback or anything specifically tailored to you. It's a fixed curriculum, same for everyone, and most people, let's be honest, get bored long before page 10 and just give up. So textbooks, helpful reference, but it's a weak foundation that will never actually get you talking. For me, it's a B tier. Now, the next one is something the internet is obsessed with, and if you are an Anki diehard, you're gonna have an opinion to share with me on this one. Number 5 is flashcards. Now, whole corners of the internet will swear that flashcards are the entire secret to fluency, and they are about half right, in my opinion. I've used flashcard apps myself quite a bit in the past. I still do from time to time. The ones that have spaced repetition built in so that they bring words back for you at a gradually increasing rate of time, I mean, they're very, very useful because they serve up words to you just in theory at the right time, which is a great way to kind of hang on to words that you've already encountered. But that's the key bit, isn't it? It's kind of hanging on. You're always playing catch up with flashcards. A deck of cards is still just a pile of words yanked out of any real situation, and flicking through them is revising. It's not learning, and it only works if you keep it up and stay on top of the management of it, which most people just simply don't do. And anything that people simply don't keep up has got an inherent problem. So it's a perfect tool for keeping and hanging on to what you've got, but it's not great for actually building new capabilities in a language. So my verdict is that keep the flashcard app, learn how to use it the right way by doing things like including full phrases, not single words, having reverse flashcards, so you practice recall by displaying the English word first and then having to remember what the word in the target language is, just don't make it the cornerstone of your method. It's a B tier from me. Now this next one I'm a lot less kind about, and you were practically raised on this method. I'm talking about number 6 is the one that they drilled into you at school.
Hago, hice, haré, haría, he hecho, había hecho, estoy haciendo, estaba haciendo.
Grammar, the grammar first approach. Rules, tables, exceptions to the rules, exceptions to the exceptions, and it's exactly why so many of us left school unable to say a damn thing in whatever language that we were learning. And listen, I've fallen hard for this in the past. I remember going very hard on grammar with my Spanish. I got it into my head that if I could just build one flawless, grammatically perfect sentence before I opened my mouth, get it all sorted in my head, and then speak, then I'd be fine, I'd be fluent. So I'd be there mid-conversation, silently agonizing in my head, right? Is this hablé or hablaba or he hablado or what's going on? Well, everyone else has long since moved on in the conversation without me. Problem is, knowing the rules and speaking are two very, very different things. Schools teach grammar because it's easy to teach. So we grow up thinking that that's what language learning is. But here's the elephant in the room. Most people are not stuck with languages because they don't know enough grammar. They are stuck because they're scared of getting the grammar wrong. Nothing sinks an excited learner faster than fear. Now, grammar matters, don't get me wrong. It just won't get you where you think it's going to get you to. So you can ace every rule on paper and still botch a coffee order or freeze up when you're trying to talk to someone. So grammar as a method gets an F from me. Right, so school has failed us, so a lot of people pin their hopes on the dream fix. And this is number 7, immersion. This has to be it, right? Immersion, you sell up, you move abroad, you live in the language, you let it all soak in and you're fluent by Christmas. Surely this has to be our top tier, right? An S for super awesome. Well, let me tell you how immersion went for me. So back in 2009, I moved to Japan with a job, and obviously learning Japanese was high on my list of priorities. I was in the immersion dream, right? In Tokyo, surrounded by Japanese, the whole romanticized immersion picture. Trouble was, I also had a full-time job because who doesn't? And that job happened to be in English because I was teaching English, so I wasn't getting any immersion when I was there. And in the evenings, I was tired after work, so I'd generally go home. And so I didn't really have that much immersion in Japanese. And it's not like you leave work and you walk to the station and on the street from like your school to the station, you just talk with everyone in the language because people are also trying to get home. They don't have time to sit and talk to you. So I only really had evenings as useful time for me. And most of the time I was just working through my textbook because when I first got there, I couldn't really speak, I didn't have any friends, so I couldn't just go out and immerse. What would that look like, just randomly walking around the street? So what happened was, even though I was studying quite a lot, I still ended up not being able to speak and really freezing up quite badly whenever I got into speaking situations with random people. So I was living in the country for part of that time when I was teaching English. I was actually doing it in a Japanese school, so I kind of had this environment around me a lot of the time, but it still was nowhere near enough. And this is what drops down immersion one level for a lot of people. Living somewhere does not teach you the language. It's what you do there that does. If you're getting real language around you, making friends and forcing yourself into awkward conversations, it's magic. But realistically, many people end up hiding in this expat bubble. They get intimidated, they order their coffee in English and end up sitting in their flat studying alone or with other English-speaking friends. And now you just paid a fortune for a much nicer view, or in the case of my flat in Tokyo, not much of a view at all. I think in-country immersion is much more useful later in your journey once you have a lot of the language under your belt when you're pushing towards fluency. It's only really if you're the kind of person, and you know this is you're the kind of person who can just go anywhere in the world with any language and you're just fearless, you'll put yourself in any situation and you know that you'll be able to surround yourself with the language from day one. Like, if you can do that, great, you're blessed. I can't do that. I don't think most people can. So the verdict, it's superb. Immersion is superb when you make it work, and only as good as the nerve that you bring to the table. So no S tier here for me, but it does get an A. So that's twice now that the best way to learn has fallen short of our coveted S tier. We still have no winner. So let's move on to number 8, and this is something that people do when they skip everything and they go for the brute force approach, and this is memorizing lists of words. Now, you might think this is not a language learning method. You would be amazed how many people in different situations around the world, their entire approach to language learning is, here's a list of words, let's memorize them for the next lesson. I used to do that at school, you may have done that before, and we sometimes fall into that trap, right? Like, I've got these words I want to learn, let me just memorize them. So you write them out, you drill them, you feel productive, right? And then you find a word that you really like and think is cool, like, I don't know, murciélago, the Spanish word for bat. The kind of word that makes you feel like a genius. So you drill it 20 times, you're certain you've learned it, and then by next Tuesday, what's happened? Yeah, gone. No notes, it's just left, walked out the door. So what's going on then? Why do you forget these words that you try to memorize from lists? Well, memorizing stuff, it does work, but the big problem is that a word with nothing around it is just an empty shell. There's no context. It's just bat. Murciélago. Bat. Like, it's just sound, it's noise, there's no meaning here, there's nothing to hang on to. And even if the random words did stick, if we think about the maths, well, the maths is brutal. You need thousands of these words to be able to actually hold a real conversation, and you're trying to load them up in your brain one at a time, and you really think you're going to be able to learn enough and keep them separate and have access to them when you need them and not confuse them and not... It's too much. You cannot learn the words you need in a language by memorizing them. There's just too many, it's just too hard. So the verdict is, look, you can memorize lists all day if you want, but just remember, you speak in sentences. And so, F tier from me. So if words on their own get you nowhere, what if you use whole sentences with an actual native speaker? And this gets us onto number 9, where we are really onto something. And this is the language exchange method, also known as tandem. So the way language exchange works is that you basically swap your language for someone else's. Done well, you'll meet someone for like an hour or two. You'll spend half of that time speaking only in English and half of that time speaking only in the target language. Generally, you don't want to be mixing them at the same time because the dominant person ends up speaking in the language that they want to speak in all the time. Now, this method is fantastic when you find the right language exchange partner. It's a win-win. And I've had probably like many of the best language experiences of my life have been with language exchange. So I have a real soft spot for this. But I've also had some of the most soul-destroying. Same method, different person, total pot luck. Years ago, before an app could sort you out with a speaking partner in seconds, I was so desperate to practice Spanish that I literally would wander around central London on a Saturday afternoon with my ears open, and the second I clocked a Spanish accent, I would walk up to someone who was working at a shop and I would say, hey, you're learning English, right? I'm learning Spanish. Do you want to do a language exchange? And most of them looked at me like I'd just escaped from an insane asylum, but every so often someone would say yes, and loads of these went nowhere. People would ghost you, or like someone would just insist on speaking English the whole time. But every now and again, it clicked. And when it clicked, it was magic. And my best experience was the very first time I did a language exchange. It was in France with a guy called Luca. And we would meet up 2 or 3 times a week, spend an hour speaking in French, an hour speaking in English. And we would just really help and support each other. We were on the same wavelength. It was really great, ended up really good friends. It's really how I went from knowing stuff in French to being able to actually really talk. The difficulty is language exchange often becomes English practice instead for the person that's not you. Right? And so you have to be disciplined about it. So the verdict on language exchange is brilliant with the right person, but it's a bit of a lottery until you find that right person. So I'm going to get a B from me. But what if you want something a bit more predictable, something that's more guaranteed to work? And this brings us on to number 10. For millions of people, this is language learning. It is the classroom learning situation, the classroom, the evening class, whatever it may be, which raises an awkward question. Where are all the fluent millions? If evening classes, language classes work, well, why aren't we all walking around speaking fluently? Well, look, the good bits of a classroom situation are real. A teacher, a set time, a room full of people expecting you on a Tuesday, that little nudge keeps loads of us going when we'd otherwise be vegging in front of Netflix. But classes give you the same content as a textbook or even one-to-one lessons, except you're moving at a slower pace. Literally no one in that room is learning at your ideal speed. So what happens is you spend all your time listening to non-natives butchering the language.
Je voudrais téléphoner pour coup de fil. J'ai bleu blé, téléphoné, bleu, bleu.
Either you're twiddling your thumbs waiting for others to catch up, or you're sinking while they race ahead and the syllabus plows on regardless because it's fixed. So you're still going to have to do most of the work on your own at home. So, verdict, well, a class is better than nothing. I know people that really enjoy doing it for lots of different reasons, and that's great for them, but on the whole, it don't work. It gets a C from me. Right, we're running low on methods, and that top tier is still eluding us, and maybe we've been overthinking it the whole time. Number 11, why not just learn from whatever native speakers used to learn from? Interesting idea. So, movies and TV in your target language all day long. Yeah, podcasts, YouTube, novels, the news, endless real language on tap. Kind of like the immersion method, but just with content. Bombarding yourself with so much content that you just do nothing but immerse yourself in the language. On paper, this sounds like the answer to everything. It's immersion without the plane ticket. I learned an embarrassing amount of Cantonese from a TV drama that was called Triumph in the Skies. It was 90 odd episodes about pilots and their romantic escapades. Never troubled the critics much, but I was absolutely hooked. When I started watching that thing, I couldn't follow a single word, but what got me through is I kind of enjoyed the subject matter, and I was really making myself concentrate episode after episode until the same people, the same faces, the same phrases came up over and over again so often that they ended up sticking. But it only worked in that case for me because I had quite a bit of Cantonese study already behind me, so I had a way in. If you plonk a complete beginner in front of a regular movie or a TV series, it's just noise. It's like fast, slangy, nothing to grab. And the same goes for high-level podcasts, novels, the news. It's all too fast, all too dense, too much, too soon, not a handhold in sight. And that's where native content, look, it's a great aspiration. We all want to get there at some point, and when you do, that's when you're really in business. But it's a rotten place to start, and too many people have just been demotivated by trying to listen, read, watch something that's far too hard for them, not knowing how to deal with it, and ending up just giving up. So it's kind of like, it's great as a supporting act, it's a great aspiration, but it's not a method that most people are going to have the language learning experience to be able to deal with and make the most out of. So it's gold once you're ready, but far too soon if you're not. I'm going to give it a B. And that is exactly what our number 1 method gets right. That's right, it is time. Number 12, it's the only one that made it all the way to an S tier. Just one, and this winner probably isn't what you're expecting, but it is reading. But not just any reading, reading using something called comprehensible input. Now the idea is dead simple. With comprehensible input, what you do is you find some reading material, like a story, that is at your level or just above, meaning that when you read it without any support, you can already follow and understand most of what you're reading, okay? And it's that fact there that it be at the level that's just right for you. That's the key. If it's too easy or too hard, this doesn't work. It needs to be just at your level. So the challenge for you is to find the right material, and that reading material should come with audio so that you can read and listen at the same time. We want it to be just hard enough to stretch you while easy enough for you to follow and enjoy the same way that you would in your own language. If you understand around 4/5, maybe even 3/4, that's probably about the right spot, and it'll be the best use of 20 spare minutes that you ever get. So I discovered the power of this method in the most unusual way. I was traveling in Argentina and I was up high in the mountains, and I got altitude sickness one night. So I woke up and I couldn't breathe. It was pretty scary. And to try and calm myself down, I just reached for the only thing that was nearby, which was a book in Spanish. And I started reading it, and it was kind of tough, but my level was at a point where I could just about follow along with what was happening. So I was reading this story, and I could guess quite a lot of the words. I mean, it was difficult to follow, I'll be honest, but I could still follow what was happening. And there were certain words that kept popping up, and I was pretty much able to guess what the words meant, again, because it was at the right level. And I sat up for hours that night reading this book in Spanish because I was too scared to go back to sleep. The next day, I was walking through the town, happy to be alive, and I realized that there were all these Spanish words that were popping into my head. And I thought, well, that's weird. I don't normally have Spanish words popping into my head that I didn't know yesterday. And then I realized it had come from the reading. By spending hours last night reading and being surrounded by all this language that was at the right level for me, and for me being able to guess what it meant, my brain was able to take it in. And reading this way gives you everything that all of the other methods that we have covered here in this video have been missing. Piles of real language, not contrived stuff, but real language that you can actually understand because it's at the right level for you. It's words that stick naturally without you having to memorize them because they come back over and over again in context. It's grammar that you meet in a real situation, not explained in some boring rule. And this is the foundation of what I made with story learning, because the problem with comprehensible input is that if you don't find stuff at the right level, then it doesn't work. So you've got to have material at the right level. Otherwise it can't be called a language learning method. And so what I've tried to do at story learning is actually create this material for you so that whatever level you're at, you have this bank of material, these stories that you can actually read and then learn from. So it takes the idea of comprehensible input and turns it into a method. It's exactly what we've also done with the new story learning app, where we have stories that are going to magically adapt to your level, and where words that you save in the app, we use them to write your next story, so you get all of this natural revision of vocabulary. There's a link to all this stuff in the description if you're interested. But the thing is, once you can read, this grows into everything else you need in the language. People often say, well, reading doesn't help you speak, but nothing could be further from the truth. When you read, what happens is you learn stuff, and then eventually you know tons of stuff, which means when you come to speak, guess what? You've got tons of stuff that you can say. But this is the one method out of everything that we've covered here that if you just do it for 15, 20, 30 minutes a day, you will see real results in your fluency because of the sheer volume of real language that is at a level where you can actually learn from, and all of it done in a user-friendly, low-stress way. So for me, I build everything that I do in languages around comprehensible input, and I let everything else be the supporting actor. So that is our S tier. And so here we go. It's the whole list together from best to worst. And all of those Fs, we'll just forget about them. Now, there's just one catch with the winner. Reading itself, it only makes you fluent if you do it in the right way. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what the right way looks like.